Welcome to another episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Sad thing about the place we are in America right now is you are really kind of forced to choose sides on a lot of things, even the news you watch. If people are dedicated to watching CNN, they will never watch Fox News Channel, and probably vice versa. Well, I give both a chance. And as many of you know, I do appearances on Fox News Channel and Fox Business Network from time to time. Brian Kilmeade is one of the co-anchors of Fox and Friends. He does a weekend show. He does a radio show. He's an author. Brian Kilmeade and I share that we both came from sports and are now trying to do the news angle. And Brian Kilmeade is my guest next.
It's time for the Michele Tafoya podcast.
So Brian Kilmeade has a new book out. Hopefully I can show this to you without losing too much focus. Teddy and Booker T, how two American icons blazed a path for racial equality. I talk often about Booker T. Washington. He is one of my heroes, one of my idols. If you ever had that conversation of the 5 people you could have dinner with, or even the 2, he would be one of mine. If it came down to one, I think it would be Booker T. Washington. He is that inspirational. And there's a story here about how he and Teddy Roosevelt came to be friends and work together. And it's a great story. And so this is the way to read American history, is to read stories, read through their own words, what happened, the things, the progress that was made through sometimes strange bedfellows, right? But this is a story worth reading. And so Brian Kilmeade is our guest in a moment to discuss it. But at first, I want to ask you, you worried about premature hair loss? Does it run in the family? Okay, so here's the word I want you to remember: Provia, and proviahair.com/Michele. I'll tell you why in a second. This is a real solution that delivers on its promise without the harsh side effects, without the unwanted chemicals, and without the unpleasant odors. Thanks to our friends that develop Genucel Skincare, Provia uses a safe, natural ingredient, Procapil, to effectively target the 3 main causes of premature hair thinning and loss. By supporting healthy scalp circulation, the delivery of nourishing nutrients, and healthy hair follicle anchoring to your scalp, Provia guarantees more hair on your head than in the shower or on your comb. Effective for men and women of any age, safe on colored, treated, and styled hair. It's really that simple. And right now, new customers save 50% off Provia's introductory package at proviahair.com/Michele, Provia hair, all one word, .com/Michele. Every package includes a full 60-day supply of Provia serum for daily use, plus Provia 30 super concentrate for faster, more noticeable results. Provia works, guaranteed, or 100% of your money back. See results for yourself right now. Don't wait. Proviahair.com/Michele, Provia hair.com/Michele with 1 L, proviahair.com/Michele. Brian Kilmeade has a great new book out. He's written a bunch of them, but this new one features my all-time hero, Booker T. Washington. Brian Kilmeade is next. Brian, welcome. I want people to know what a normal guy you are. Like, you just went through all these hoops to connect to us, and it was like, no problem. You just, I thought you'd have some staff member there doing everything for you. You did it all yourself. I had no idea you were just a normal guy.
And Michele, the whole thing is my temper is so bad I fired all my staff yesterday. So I have to act normal today until I hire new people. And then I can get rid of them again.
There you go. All right. Well, good, fair enough. Well, we're the beneficiary of your presence. We're going to talk about this book, which is Teddy and Booker T. And I'm fired up to talk about it because Booker T. Washington is one of my heroes. And it's just such a great idea for a book. And it's won such high praise from so many people. So thrilled about that. We're in a weird time. And I've been saying it for the past couple of years, Brian. It feels like we're upside down. And the fact that we are dealing with a level of anti-Semitism that I've never seen before. I don't know about you.
Never.
In the wake of what's going on in Israel, it's shocking to me. What could have prepared us for this? What didn't we see coming?
I mean, if we just to back up on your original premise, just when you left sports, everything was beginning to turn upside down. So everyone was just obsessed with Trump. They loved him or hate him. Trump did nothing wrong, did nothing right. Whoever you are, there was no gray area. You wear a red hat, you're a genius, or you're the worst person in the world. So all I could tell you is Trump looks better every day to any rational human being because of the policies he had in place. And it wasn't that they were genius. It wasn't a mix of Henry Kissinger and Thomas Jefferson. It was, are you against crime? Are you pro-homelessness? Are you for having a border? I don't hate other people, but are you for an organized immigration system?
Right.
Are you for a muscular defense that costs $900 billion? Are you for sticking up against our enemies, demanding our allies pay their fair share? And I'm not telling you, I don't think Trump walks on water, not by a long shot. But what Joe Biden did is whatever Trump did, I'm doing backwards. I'm not really that into, it doesn't really show great patriotism ever. In fact, those successful people are to be vilified. If you have a gas car, don't worry about it. You're not going to have it much longer. We're going to change it. Even though there's no demand for it, I'm going to make you stop liking your refrigerator. You're not going to like your car. You're going to have trouble getting it. If you live in California, or I think you might live, or at least you toured through when you went to visit Al Michaels.
Yeah.
You're paying $6 a gallon for gas.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to complain about it. And then we sit there, and the way we pulled out of Afghanistan, the way we slow walked everything in Ukraine, the way we don't explain everything when we're getting into a conflict, even if we're financing with weapons and money, nobody explains anything. So everything went opposite. And then for our number one democracy in the Middle East, to our number one ally in the world, for people to question whether they should defend themselves after one of the most horrific attacks in modern world history, is mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling, and the fact that Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokesperson, press secretary, was asked about anti-Semitism in the last 24 hours, and she quickly pivoted to Islamophobia without addressing the anti-Semitism. And I no longer live in California. I saw something very disturbing out of my hometown this morning or last night, that some Jewish school kids in middle school were harassed. And rather than the harassers being punished, the Jewish kids were asked to sign some sort of, don't talk about this, don't share this with other people, don't go public. And it's horrifying. If there's a middle ground person in the United States of America, I find it to be Bari Weiss of the Free Press. She left the New York Times because of anti-Semitism. She has the Free Press. She's done podcasts now with Condoleezza Rice about this issue and is writing extensively and saying, man, I was one of those that couldn't stand Trump, but the more that I realized what he did through the Abraham Accords, the more I realized maybe I'm more conservative than I thought I was. Where do you see this going? Is it enough? Is this enough to wake people up to what is going on the left?
I hope so. And Matt Taibbi is another guy.
Yeah.
So Matt Taibbi, does anyone think that Matt Taibbi, I always thought he was just a great journalist and got a chance to know him over the last year and a half. Does anyone think he's a right-wing zealot? But he went and saw what was going on with Twitter and wondered, why were Republicans talking about shadow banning? What's going on here? And I don't think there's anything with this Russian collusion thing. And people started giving in the Heisman. And then all of a sudden, Elon Musk says, you seem fair. Why don't you go check this out? And it turns out it was worse than anyone thought. Mm-hmm. And Bari Weiss found out the same thing. Yeah. You don't have to like Trump or vote for Trump. You don't have to love January 6th. No one should. But when you see what was against him, this was the stuff that was rigged against him. All social media, where a lot of people get their information, that was rigged against him. But that's what Bari Weiss discovered. She's probably, I don't know if she's ever going to vote Republican or not. But to me, it's not right or left. It's right and wrong at this point.
Yeah.
So, do you think that criminals should stay in jail? Do you think that people should be allowed to walk in and shoplift? And the answer is close the store, not get a cop? What the hell is going on here? It's crazy. We're not talking about stem cell research. Michelle, I know you always cared about that, but like you're doing the middle of sports. But stem cell research is one of those difficult issues. You have to actually talk to people about it. And Nancy Reagan, the ultimate conservative, was like, I'm for this. And George Bush is like, I am not for this. These were hard issues for intellectual thought. This is not hard stuff.
This is not tough. Yeah, this is not tough. And again, I think so much of it comes back to education and who we have teaching and what they are teaching. And we look at the teachers unions. My mom recently passed away. She spent most of her life as a school teacher, but she became so disillusioned with the profession in California in particular when she saw the teachers unions and how they operated and how they cozied up with politicians and how it had less to do with teaching kids and more to do with empowering these union heads. And so now we're in a way, I feel like we ignored that. We didn't really pay attention to it. We thought all teachers are good. They're good-hearted, and many, 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 many of them are. Don't get me wrong. My mom was among them. But the fact that they are being teachers are being politicized. And some of the
Yeah.
people coming into the classrooms have very definite agendas and they're passing them along. And clearly, when you look at a high school walkout in San Francisco, and you look at what's going on with younger kids and these college kids who really don't know what they're talking about, some of this has taken root. Brian, I love books like yours. I hope people read
Right.
them. How do you expect we change the educational system? Are parents waking up enough?
I do. Absolutely think they are. And they got sober up to it because it's one thing that's apolitical. It's people's kids.
Yeah.
So if you have a kid and I'm telling you what to do with the kid, even if you're my friend and our friends, they're going to be resentful of me.
Yeah.
And then when that teacher comes home and tells their parents, that kid tells their parents they're wrong, that's going to be resentful. You notice your kid changing? That's a little bit of an issue. And we know we've been over this so many times, and you've done it on camera here. The pandemic exposed so much.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people go to charter schools? I look at Manhattan, where I am right now. Mm-hmm. And the charter schools, they were en route to be double where they are right now. And the financing was all there. They just refused to finance the schools because the teachers unions didn't want them, and they're the ones who put the city council and the state reps in place. But people line up, minorities line up to go to these schools that demand more, longer days, uniforms, harder curriculum, and people want their kids there. Most are minority. So don't tell me you're going to bat for rich people, because you're not. It's financed, it's different demands, it's different curriculum. People are seeking it out. So I do think people are wising up to it. I think they're taking more control of it. I think that I feel bad that teachers a lot of times suffer the wrath of it, because my daughter just graduated and she's going to be a teacher. Right now she's a permanent sub at a local school, which, believe it or not, it's hard to get a teaching job on Long Island. The rest of the country is trying to recruit it.
Yeah.
But I definitely have an affinity. I believe they deserve every penny they get. I think they're underpaid. I absolutely do. And I never saw a teacher with an agenda. Every once in a while, you get their opinion. When I was in grammar school and high school, you get their opinion once in a while by what they did or what they thought. But they'd sneak it in.
Yeah.
But now it's part of it. I interviewed a CUNY professor today who is Jewish. And he says their teachers union at the city colleges, they actually call each other comrade. They are actually communists. And he's pro-Jew. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to deal with this. I'm tenured. But then when they come out anti-Semitic and they're chanting for Palestine and to push Israel into the ocean, that's where the rubber hit the road. So I think there's a lot of people like Barry Weiss and this teacher that normally have one side of the aisle are saying, I'm going what's right, not because it's Republican, because I know what's wrong.
Yeah. It's an interesting, I want to ask you before we get to the book about just, you were in sports once and now, you're working at Fox News, and it's a place that engenders a lot of wrath from a lot of people. But I find so many good journalists work at Fox, and so at Fox News and Fox Business Network. So I applaud the fine journalism that takes place, because it's not everywhere. But how do you, as a guy, as an individual, as a dad, as a husband, as an anchor, deal with that wrath that comes along with being at Fox News?
Yeah, most of the people really salute it. I get mostly positive. I get other people that are angry about it. The Jimmy Kimmels of the world, the Jon Stewarts, both of which I knew and just have said gone off the rails. They get incensed. I remember I went out to California during the pandemic, and a friend I went to college with, that when I moved out to California, I was doing all sports radio, working at a local station. I stayed with him. He was a successful actor and lacrosse player. I played soccer, and we were great friends. And then he came to meet me, and he said, I asked him why I was late. He goes, well, my friends would give me a hard time. They wanted to know why I would meet with you. And I told him, you're really a good guy. You just work there. And I was just stunned by that. I go, really? I've known you since 1987. And you feel as though you had to explain why we're friends? That was what really struck me. But it doesn't hurt me personally. I feel like I couldn't believe how lucky I got to get this job. Michelle, when I got this job, it wasn't even on in New York. Rudy Giuliani was mayor, and he was trying to put us on the public access channel because they were just trying to bar it. So no one knew where I worked. I said I do sports at the Fox News channel. Everyone's like, you're on Fox Sports? I go, no. This was my first 2 years. And then as it gained steam and we watched all the world events, and each time we gained more and more steam, I feel very prideful that I'm here. And if there are people that have a problem with it, I almost feel bad for them because we're not only am I here and happy, but we're number one for 15 years, and we do it with a smaller staff. And I would say might even probably get paid less, but everyone considers, you're on a mission to get it done. I mean, I had to work, with my Saturday show was live on Saturday. I got all these people helping out live. Yeah. I was at a soccer game. We had to go live. I jumped in the shower. A van shows up. I got a bunch of people in my ear I never heard before. They stayed over for the other show to help out. That's just the attitude at Fox. And I don't really know. They're not like, how much do I get paid for this? I should be home right now. It's Saturday night. So that's pretty much the attitude. We can't have mass meetings because they all leak to the press. But we used to have these mass meetings where they used to hold up the negative advertising, like Fox will never make it, the worst news channel ever. And they used to hold it up, and everyone used to laugh. They used to pin up the bad headlines, USA Today, and all of it. We used to feed off that.
Yeah.
And that gave a sense. It was very similar to sports. That gave us a sense of team, like no one believes in us. Yeah. And he goes, you watch, things are going to change. And Roger Ailes used to be down there doing it. And now Suzanne Scott's killing it. And Lachlan is someone who's just a big cheerleader for it. So some people give me a hard time. I'll never hang out with the so-called cool kids in Hollywood, but I'm not asking. Maybe at 20 I wanted that. Maybe at 25 I thought it would be cool, but not now.
Well, I think, the wiser you get and the more of the world that you see and the more of this kind of stuff that you see, where it doesn't become about, blue or red. It becomes about, like you said, right or wrong,
right? Which
to me are very obvious distinctions, right? Then you want to do what's right. And it's the basic stuff, like you said, like crime and the border, and look, I come from a family of immigrants, but they came here legally, and that's so I am proud of that. I have nothing against immigration. I think that's the other thing. They have these straw man arguments like, oh, you want a secure border, you're a xenophobe. No, I like order. I like process. That's what I like. And I like safety, and I like security, and I like us knowing who is here, because look what just happened in Israel. So
Michelle, can I just make people feel a little bit better about that
please
statement?
Please.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, they used to say you don't like Hispanics. If you want to crack down on the border, the word from Republicans was they did an after action report, and they said every time you talk bad about the border, you lose the Hispanic vote. Trump came in and wrecked that myth. Mm-hmm. And now I see Democrats are legitimately concerned about the border, not to the degree that they say publicly, and like Henry Cuellar does, right. Democrat at the border. But it's gotten so bad, I think that people actually might want to fix it. And they understand it's nothing to do with being anti-immigrant. It's security.
Yeah.
And then we see 168 people on the terror watch list this year already, 18 last month. And when Trump was in office, there was 0, 12, and 17. And you're talking about 18 in September, when you're watching Hamas and Hezbollah and everyone's confirmed in the FBI that there's presence here. I think that we might be ready to fix it.
Well, I hope so, and I hope it's not too late. My fear is, they're among us. Some of these terrorists or people on the watch list have clearly gotten away. You can't catch them 100%. So that these are frightening times, and I don't like saying that. I've been such a hopeful person, and I love this
Yeah.
country, and I love what it stands for. And one of the reasons I do is because of people like Booker T. Washington. Again, I'm just going to hold up the book. I'm going blurry, but um,
Yeah.
Teddy and Booker T. What is it about this? Like, if you haven't read Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington,
Yeah.
put it on the top of your nightstand and start reading it. It is one of the most inspiring, amazing tales of American history, I think. So what was special about his relationship with Teddy Roosevelt?
So one thing I did two books. The Games Do Count. I wanted to prove that average Division II soccer players, and they cared so much, that really didn't achieve much, didn't waste their time. So I did this book called The Games Do Count, and I interviewed 72 people about what they did in sports. But if they went pro or even were college standouts, I didn't put them in the book. I was going the other aspect of sports because I wanted to be great and I wasn't. And then I did It's How You Play the Game. I want to mix people in history with people that went pro, like Joe Montana and Steve Young, with average everyday people like The Rock. And I did 93 interviews. I knocked them down to essays and put them in that book. And I just wanted to talk about what they learned in life. And and most of it through failure. You know, I wasn't working hard enough. I didn't work on my game, or I did, or I got hurt and I had no backup plan, and that type thing. So I thought people benefited from, but I was done after that. A lot of what I saw in those men and women is what Booker T. Washington learned on the fly, without a book, without Norman Vincent Peale, or without Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, without Anthony Robbins helping him out. It was a vision and a dream that would not be denied. And that's what I got from Up from Slavery. I'm saying, oh my goodness, did this guy just read and get a Anthony Robbins cassette tape from 1988? Because he just would envision it happening. I envision education. I envision being free. I envision running a school. I envision being an impact person. I envision having the President of the United States speak at my commencement. And when you're 9 years old and you're a slave and all those things come through, and he chronicles everything he did to get there, it was hard work, belief in yourself, a lot of help from other people. I thought people could relate to the story. But I did George Washington's Secret Six, about a spy ring that I looked at for 20 years. I just was fascinated that it happened in my backyard. It helped deliver the revolution, a victory, and no one knew about it. And that book ended up being successful. I said, do another. We're in the middle of the War on Terror, and the first time people talk about the War on Terror was with Jefferson. So I did Thomas Jefferson, the Tripoli Pirates. I've always had a personal fascination, which is why I have few friends, with the War of 1812 and the fact that they burned the White House down and we almost never had a country. Yeah. And I thought about doing the Battle of Baltimore, but then I've learned more about Andrew Jackson, and it led me to Andrew Jackson, the Miracle of New Orleans. Once again, you study this stuff, you realize what kind of country we have, how close we came to total annihilation. And for some reason, we step up and step out and rise up. And Sam Houston, the Alamo Avengers, how the hell did we get Texas? And who was this guy? Why wasn't he president? And that's what Andrew Jackson mentored Sam Houston. So it was like a Rocky movie. I was able to blend one to the next, start Rocky 2 to Rocky 3 with the last scene. And then I'm going, I'm on the Civil War. We're in the middle of the George Floyd riots. Are people ready for me to talk race? And I said, let me do it. No one wants another Lincoln biography. Frederick Douglass was just the best biography of the year. So I said, how do I do it? Why don't I talk about their relationship and how they moved America forward so it became the president and freedom fighter? But before I did that, I thought about Booker T. Washington because I had read Up from Slavery. And then I found out his links to Teddy Roosevelt and how Roosevelt was not accepted by the mainstream. He was considered a wild, almost like a little Trumpian, was not supposed to survive childhood, even though he was rich. He had no friends. He had to be homeschooled. He was 80 pounds. Going into Harvard, he was maybe 100. So how was he going to assimilate? Well, he overcompensated with the thing was his weakest, his body. He made it his strongest. And he ended up looking around, even though his mom was from the Confederacy, and saying, how do we bring this country together? And then found Up from Slavery, read it himself in a pre-release copy. And him and his wife read it, couldn't believe it. And they met in New York City in 1903, and he said, listen, I'm vice president now, but if I'm president, let's work together. McKinley gets shot a little time later. They send it. They have this meeting. They start working together. How do we do it in a segregated South? Not everybody was racist, but many were under those beliefs that whites were better than blacks, That's how they were brought up. That's what they were around. How do I change that school of thought while staying in the South? And how does Teddy Roosevelt do that while staying in the North? And when they come together, they just made America a better place. And I chronicle their relationship. So this way we talk about race from an intelligent level. I'm not running from a major issue. I'm fascinated, and I think we need to be rooted in facts rather than myths. That I didn't say America was perfect, but what makes us great is we tried to be. And here's the two men in this case that helped us get better. We always seem to have the right people at the right time. And I think these two are the right people at the right time.
I hope we find some right people at this time too. But
I know that would help.
That would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But in the meantime, this is a great way to learn history through storytelling, not just reading the textbook stuff. Yeah, their words, relationships. Not just here's what happened on this date and then on this date, but an actual narrative that tells the story, that makes it accessible to any reader. This stuff is fun. I am such a history buff, and I love this stuff. I just love it, and I love this stuff. So I encourage people, Brian Kilmeade, Teddy, and Booker T, how two American icons blazed a path for racial equality. I noticed you didn't say equity. You said equality, which I think is the appropriate word.
Big
there.
Mistake. I better change that.
No, don't change it. Don't change it. Who knows? It might sell a few more, but in the meantime, it's good stuff.
Thanks.
And I hope people read these to understand it's the idea of America. You're right. We're not perfect. No country is. That's for damn sure, but we try to be.
Yeah.
Brian, final word, as you like to say. Last word to you, Brian.
War allowing, you'll see that we did an hour documentary on it. And it's going to be on November 5th at 10 o'clock Eastern time. The book comes out November 7th. So if you're watching this late, it's okay. And BrianKilmeade.com, I'm going to be going around signing books, doing appearances, talking about these books on stage. The first one will be in Red Banks, New Jersey, and I'll be in Pittsburgh and Michigan, but you can see it online. But most of all, I think that there was one joke that these guys said that Booker T. Washington talked about. Believe it or not, John McCain referred to it. The most controversial thing happened. Teddy Roosevelt said, "Come for dinner with my family at the White House." America wasn't ready for that in the South. It was considered very controversial. How could a black man eat at the White House? And it made them bring their relationship down below level. Even though they helped each other with judge nominations and postmaster general, brought it down. And one day, Booker T. Washington was waiting for a train, and the controversy was still raging. And this white man walked up to him in the South, and he just said, "Booker T. Washington, you're America's finest man." And he goes, "No, it's the President of the United States, Teddy Roosevelt." He goes, "I used to think so until he had you come over for dinner." And he said, "Wow." He said, "I'm going to let sleeping dogs lie. There's nothing I can do to help him." Right? They did not know how insulting they were to him. But by giving him a compliment, he said, "There's certain people I can't change.
Yeah.
But I'm going to open up Tuskegee School, and I'm going to change people's opinion by seeing these great men and women too, graduate." His wives played a huge role too. Graduate with a skill and an education so they could build a house, and they could also be a realtor or a great academic. So that's a little bit of how they worked with each other. And Teddy Roosevelt served on his board even after his death.
It's such good stuff, and hopefully people will read it and get some hope from it and some inspiration. I know that's what it's for. Brian Kilmeade, thank you so much for your time and going through all the hoops with us this morning to get this done. We so appreciate your coming on the show.
I appreciate your passion, and I'm glad you're in the news world, Michelle.
I am too. I am too. Although right now it's a little depressing, but we're
but at least you're in it. At least you feel you can affect it, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
Absolutely.
That's what we're trying to do. He is Brian Kilmeade, and with this book, he has shown that he can be brave and do good at the same time. So, folks, with that, we will see you next time.